Hello, everybody. Welcome to TBC Central. My name is Nancy, and I am your host for today. We are doing number 12 broadcast of TBC. It's awesome. Okay. Today, we're going to do World Poverty Day. It's an AM show on JoyNews, and we're going to do part 1. Here we go.
After watching the AM show, I nearly said the polls. I know it's not. But if you have the opportunity to regularly satisfy your appetite, sleep in a spacious, airy room alone, and breathe good air around you, like I'm sure our politicians do, then you should count yourself lucky. Because in the case of residents of Tulaku in Ashaiman, it is a reverse. As the world marks the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, JoyNews' Emefa Etiamwa Eli spends time chatting with two key residents and reports that until they are called for a decent accommodation, good food and provision of basic social amenities is heeded, they will continue to wallow in poverty.
Tulaku is a gateway to Ashaiman. Wherever you come from Accra, from Tema, from wherever you come, you pass through Tulaku. And Tulaku faces the ceremonial motorway. And he said, and I saw a disgrace to Ashaiman and the landowners.
We have got people who are ready to do petty trading. So if these loans are given to them for a little interest, I think they will be able to cope with the situation.
We'll be happy, we'll be glad if authorities or the government in power now will come to our aid and make a policy that no, Tulaku is near the Tamamoto way. The area must be demarcated and developed. We shall be happy, very, very happy.
Answering the call of October 17 to end poverty, a pathway to a peaceful and inclusive societies. This is a theme on which this year's International Day for the Eradication of Poverty is being marked.
It's very difficult, but I am only managing. By the grace of God, I'm managing. I thank God my boy is in his last form. I've paid his school fees. I've paid his WASI registration money and what have you. So I'm now a bit okay, but I'm left with the daily aspect of a parent. When school is not in session, then I become hot.
Especially like they're on vacation.
I'm on pension now. That is what is adjusting me to manage my family. Otherwise, I don't know what I will do. I'm an industrial mechanic, but I have not gone to practice what I learned. I'm now stick to my father's school for all these years.
63-year-old Emmanuel Zonya has lived in Tulaku all his life. He is the owner and proprietor of the Modern Age Institute, formerly the National Primary School at Tulaku, a suburb of Ashaiman in Accra. This is the school most children in this community receive early childhood education. For Mr. Zonya, life in Tulaku is certainly not normal.
Nothing has been done about our situation here. Our main problem is demarcation, and then they give us the go-ahead to put up permanent structures, and then we will live as normal human beings. Sanitation, what have you? No.
Homes, largely made of wooden structures, are the shelters of residents of Tulaku. The men in the slum are best described as hustlers, while the women engage in tabletop and mini-shop trading. The youth, both boys and girls, are often on the streets, hawking all manner of items, including sachet water.
Some deal in Fula and Nono. Some sell guru. Only few go out to work somewhere. Some few go to the harbor, not as a worker, but to go and walk around to see whether they can get some job. There are few wolves. Some rare animals, not outside, but in the house. Some sleep with the animals in the house. Yeah, I must be frank. But recently, the assembly is trying to get them in a confined place near the pylons.
Assemblyman for the area, Yakubu Amadu, says those perceived as well-to-do in the community are the individuals who operate their private shops and public places of convenience.
Some are selling provisions to earn a living. Some have put up toilet facilities and they are taking care of it. Some too are owning a shower and then they have got standpipe where people come to patronize. I think those are the people I think are better off in terms of livelihood.
Life in Tulako is survival for the fittest. Access to decent accommodation, basic social amenities, and good sanitation facilities has become the major headache.
Most of them are not educated. Most of them too migrate from their villages and then they find themselves here in the area. You'll be surprised, a single room, more than 10 people occupy a single room for the night. They are crowded in the room.
Those people who have got families, some have been laid off from work and now they are jobless. They don't know what to do to earn a living. Their wives too don't work. They are already housewives and they need financial support. But because he's no more working, he's with the husband. Because the husband is no more working and the wife too is already a housewife, there's nothing to leave.
All right, so the person that I'm just about to introduce has already made himself heard, hasn't he? I'm sure you heard him talking before he came on air. Member of Parliament for Keta, Richard Kwashiga, says the Honorable has been ended, so I should add it. So Honorable Member of Parliament for Keta, Richard Kwashiga, is in the studio with us. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while, and good morning to your audience, viewers alike. And I didn't expect you to have heard what I said. I told you so, but of course I ended it. Yes. I mean, there are many people who went into that contest and lost. And if somebody emerged victorious to become the representative
of the
constituency, I mean, it's a great achievement.
It is indeed. And
people must give honor to those honor is due.
Right.
Yes.
Right. No problem about that at all. So I will be looking with him, looking at the socioeconomic situation of residents. You know, basically, we've just heard the story of Tulaku, and I'm sure that in his constituency, he can speak of a lot when it comes to poverty. So as we commemorate the Poverty Reduction Day, so let me find out from you, to what extent will you say poverty perhaps has crippled the development of your constituency? You know, let's just start from there.
Thank you very much. Well, using my constituency as a microcosm of what pertains in our nation, I would say that yes, poverty. There is extreme poverty in various sections of our societies, especially when you take issues of poverty. We're looking at survival, food to eat. We are looking at shelter. We are looking at potable water. We are looking at, access to healthcare. And all these things obviously appear to be lacking extremely in some of our societies. For instance, when you go to portions of my constituents like Anyako, Sebakonu, name them. So now they don't have potable water. And that obviously is, or it epitomizes poverty.
Right.
Because if people cannot get potable water, we are said, it is said that water is life, then indeed you must admit that those are poor people. And the reason for which we have institutions in place, as it were, to address some of these things. I believe strongly that today, which is a day that we are observing for the eradication of poverty, which is a UN resolution, that's a resolution 47/196 of 1992, its fulcrum is to ensure that societies, governments that are elected, people put in places of authority, ensure that they eradicate poverty. But of course, we may not be able to eradicate poverty completely, but then you can be able to move those at the extreme end of poverty into the next bracket, and also ensure that you reduce drastically those that are so vulnerable and those that are so poor. Because you see, when people are poor, extremely poor, what it means,
I need to pause you a bit. I'll come back to you, sir, and find out what specific measures you have taken as a member of parliament as well. But Roland is ready for us right now in Ashaiman. Let's hear from Roland, and then when we come back, we continue with the... okay, Roland, if you can hear me, bring us up to speed. What's happening? Do they even know that today has anything to do with poverty?
Yes, it's part of the education gap.
Right, Roland, I lost you. Can you... yeah, can you say what you just said again, and then you can, take it from there?
Okay, I've been saying that as far as the education is, and whether they are aware that today has been dedicated in making sure that, especially our governments and the rest of the developing world and the whole world really, eradicate poverty. That would not be perhaps residents or inhabitants of Ashaiman where we are. And currently we're at Tulaku Center, and it's just located in the heart of the side where the income levels in the community are quite low. And the statistics have been indicating that since 1990, where we had about 1 in 2 Ghanaians being poor, that gap has increased to about 1 in 4 Ghanaians. And it is more likely that 5 children, when you take out of them being 10 in the northern region, not likely to get the age of 5. And that's a serious issue for many developmental economies and those who really are doing a lot of advocacy. I grew up in this community, so I tend to associate more with the problems in this community. But I would want to speak to people who have lived in many such areas that are semblance of the structure of the way people live in Ashaiman across the country. And I would want to speak to a gentleman who has lived here since the 1960s, grew up here, I think virtually born here, grew up here, is trying to make some livelihoods, is now past the middle age level as far as we're concerned, and try to ask him how he has been coping all this while. And good morning to you. Your name, sir?
Good morning. My name is Emmanuel Zunya.
Okay. And I'm told that you have lived here since the 60s. Is that true?
Yeah, 69.
Okay. So tell me, how was the state of the community, if you compare it to now, as far as the level of you being able to access the goods and services of daily livelihoods?
Formerly, the population was a bit low, but as time goes on, the years goes by, the population in Tulaku increased dramatically due to the influx of foreigners, 1, and 2, the conflict at the north drove a lot of our brothers from the north to the community. So the community is, let me say, is overpopulated. And you could you imagine 10 people sleeping in one room? 10 people, 10 able-bodied people sleeping in one room, which is not good for our health.
And I see that you're operating a school here. Is it something you're doing on your own? And how has that helped to improve the lives of the children and the parents that you're helping?
The school has helped the community a lot. I may say this is the 4th private school in Ashaiman. The school was put up by my father, my late father. So when he expired, I took up the operation of the school.
Okay. And the state in which people live, do they have access to amenities and normal goods and services that they need to live?
I may say formally it wasn't so, but it's coming up gradually. It's supposed to be more advanced than this, but it's coming up gradually. Ashama per se was abandoned. Development began in Ashama just recently. Yeah.
And I see that a lot of the buildings are ramshackles. Many of them are squatter-like buildings made of wood, etc. How are people able to cope based on your observation?
The occupants of the area, according to those who gave us the land, said we are squatters. But then we were not many. But now we have overpopulated the area. And since '92, the Tema chief came to organize a meeting with the community, the structure owners, and he made us pay some money. 570, and we paid with our receipts. And up to now, since '92, 25 years ago, he has not done anything about our situation here. Most of us are ready to put up permanent structures based on the design to be given by the chief. But up to now, in conjunction with TBC, nothing has been done. And you could see buildings, big buildings springing up. Where did they get the documents? Who gave them the authority? Who gave them the documents to put up these structures? Though it is a plus for the area, but we have lived here so many years, and we have been denied of our right to own a land here. See, we pay towards it, and nothing is done about it.
Okay, so we'll try and work towards some community leaders, especially we've invited the Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, and Honorable Ernest Nogbe has decided to have his time with us. And so I'll say thank you, Mr. Emmanuel Zonyra, and good morning to you, sir. I know that I'm sure you're on a very busy schedule because looking at the way you're dressed. Yeah, but at the end of the day, we all want to improve the livelihoods of not only people of Ashaiman, but communities of such nature. Yeah. But if you look at what the statistics, especially coming from the UN Children's Fund, is indicating, the poverty gap, especially in urban communities, seems to be increasing. Development is ongoing, but it's only benefiting in about only those who could have it, about 40% of the urban inhabitants. That should be something that concern, of course, you are the MP, but the duty bearers in the community.
That's very good. That's very good. You know, for instance, Ashama, like this, a cosmopolitan community, and everybody who wants to migrate from the village to the city will want to reside in Ashama for the first time before even looking for a place to settle. So basically, you will see these things happening often and often. So what we need to do is to strategize and bring some sort of developmental project and also create opportunities for the people so that they may not be a burden on society in wherever they stay. So basically, the government and then the residents of the communities must take proactive measures to correct these anomalies, because when they come here, when we migrate from our villages and come to our cities, that this is a land of somebody, but we take the law even into our own hands, then we create unnecessary slums in the areas.
Okay, so technology did what it does best on us, but we will certainly work that out and go back to Roland and the Ashaiman Member of Parliament. I do have in the studio Member of Parliament, Honorable Member of Parliament for Keta, Richard Kwashiga, in the studio. He's also on the Employment, Social Welfare, and State Enterprises Committee. He's the deputy ranking on that committee and also on the Public Accounts Committee. So certainly puts him in a very good position to speak about reducing poverty nationwide. So, sorry, we're talking about your constituency. Let's look at the bigger picture. By the way, you have been in a government that, or you were a part of a government that spent about, let's just put it at, let's say 8 years. And within that time, what do you think that were the measures you put in place to reduce poverty at the time?
All right, thank you so much. Just for clarity, I was a member of parliament from 2013 till now.
Okay.
I was not directly a member of government, but I belong to a political party that formed the previous government at the time. Yes. So.
And you did speak for the party.
Well, I spoke for the party because that's why I said I belong to that political party.
So you would have known what was done there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not denying that fact, but just to correct, just for clarity's sake, because you said I was part of the government. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah. Yes, of course. I think that there were a lot of efforts that were done to really eradicate poverty. Not just talking from the 8 years of the previous administration, but I would say that successive governments, right from 1993 and even beyond, had actually put in place the necessary mechanisms, as it were, to really address the poverty deficit that we have. Because clearly, whenever people are condemned to live in extreme poverty, they lose their human rights, and then also their human rights are violated to a large extent. What it therefore means is that people do not have access to adequate education and all, and that obviously, makes them victims for their rights to be abused and trampled upon. And again, also, they lose their dignity. Oftentimes, when people do not have enough to eat, you would realize that others who have a little more, tend to feel some superiority and tend to violate their rights.
Their rights.
Right. So all governments have made a significant effort. We've had the Vision 2020 that was intended, as it were, for 25 years to really address this problem, create employment, reduce poverty and in extreme poverty in most of our rural communities.
Okay, but if I could please interrupt you rudely, we have the feedback. The MP is on his way out. Let's take that bit of the conversation and then we'll come back and continue.
The fashion and design, we have to tackle it from the grassroots. We have to tackle it from the youth. If we are able to do it from the youth to create employment for the youth, then it means we are making a headway. So if we can resource these industries, these little industries in the community, we have Don Bosco, that is training institute, that is training, this kind of artisan carpentry, etc., etc. We can resource that school also, that institute, so that you can engage some of the youth in this kind of work. And if we do that, in the next 10 years or 20 years, we'll move from that kind of urban area to a very urban area. So the basic is what we need to do now, is to create those opportunities for the people. Now, if you look at Ashama, when it comes to economies-wise, trade, we are one of the people in the whole country that deals in trade.
Yeah, that would generate a lot more.
That would generate a lot of income
by some informal means.
Exactly, informal means. So what we need also to do is to have a modernized market in Ashaman. If you're able to get a modernized market, like the KJTR market, like the Kotokraba market, like even the one in Cape Coast, the one in Cape Coast is Kotokraba, like KJTR Kotokraba. We have a modernized market.
That'll be like a marketing center.
A marketing center. It will bring a lot of investors from Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, etc. To even as we speak now, they are already here doing their trading. So if you're able to get a sanitized market, modernized market, for the community, it will generate a lot of income for our women and even everybody.
That creates more congestion in the community.
It will not. It will not. If you want to say so, then what about the advanced countries where this kind of marketing centers are, and that is where people go there to trade. If you look at the roadside now, you have a lot of banks that have sprung up in the community. A lot of banks in the community. You have a lot of telcos, that is telecommunication distance in the community. So the place is already developing. The only thing we need is to decongest the environment by way of removing some structures, the unauthorized structures at some vantage points, and create another,
take people out of poverty, but at the same time, it's a community where, just like others like Fadama, Sukura, etc., where people make lots of money. You see them living very informal, but there's a lot of money circulating around. How do we make sure that there's equity? It's evenly spread. Somebody gets something to do, and then there's knowledge, and that ultimately helps improve systems like sanitation, health, etc.
Yeah, that is why we need the training facilities. And when you talk of equity, as you said, in Ashama here, the revenue from Ashama, so that at least it will benefit the people in the community. Now, when you talk of people getting education and people getting or making the funds equal amongst the people, then you are talking of everybody must get something to do. The opportunities must be created for everybody. And that is why we have to improve upon these training institutes, so that those who cannot have anything to do, or those who do not have the technical know-how, can also go to these institutions and then have some, handiwork and be doing, and also get some in Ashama. So if I should tell you now that we are going to build, the one factory, one district, one factory issue, we need some in Ashama too. It will help us. It will help us so much. So we are designing.
We have a lot of artisanal kind of semblance.
So basically, what you need to do, if they don't think they can give us one district, one factory, they have to improve upon the existing ones, like the Boboji, as I mentioned, like the Mikadi fashion design, as I mentioned, making associations of institutions which we need to improve. If we improve them, if we resource them, give them necessary equipment, they can engage a lot of people in the community, and that will create job opportunities for all of them. And that is what we are doing together with Assembly. When I was campaigning, I have started doing most of these things. I have established this bead making, and then also bakery for the people. Now I've pushed a lot of the girls into the fashion design with Mikabi, that they are training them. What I have to do is, we will not just train them and then leave them. We have to train them and then resource them. If it is one machine we buy for each and every one of them to also go ahead and carry on their duties, that is what we have to do. So that is exactly what we are doing. We just have to reduce the poverty level in Ashama. We have to minimize. We cannot eradicate it. That one day, we can never do that. So what we need to do is to reduce the poverty level.
But you have hope that ultimately, in your lifetime, those who live in the community will see some improvement.
Not really in my lifetime. Before I'll exit Parliament, even if it is 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, the number of terms that God has given me to, we will see drastic change in the people of Ashama.
That puts enormous pressure on you.
Definitely. That is the reason why they voted for me, so I have to do that.
Well, Ernest Nogbe, thank you very much. I know that you are getting ready to go to the house, so we wish you all the best for the day.
Thank you very much.
But it's all the discussion about how to make sure that we improve poverty, and because water constantly doesn't flow, you get to find out in many of these communities, people put up tanks to make sure that they're able to sell water to people. That is where they don't have water flowing in homes. And you have a lot of these squatter communities. And so people would have to come and fetch water at some point in the day. And then those who sell water would have to somehow also get to pay huge amount of bills at the end of the month. But let's see how we can get to speak to some of the women in the communities, because we want to have what they go through, the drudgeries that they have to encounter each day to make ends meet. And good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing great.
Okay. What's your name, please?
Mrs. Nati.
Mrs. Nati. And what do you do? I mean, what's your work?
Okay. I'm a
so where's
Okay, that was the video for today. At least they are trying to help the community by training the women and, you know, setting them up maybe with a sewing machine of their own or something like that, selling water. So tomorrow we're going to cover the second half of this video. It's very interesting. If you notice that their streets were not paved, they're all dirt. I've been in communities myself where that's what it was. And so I understand what they're going through. But anyway, this is also to remind us to put on the forefront why we are doing what we're doing. We're trying to help everybody bring up the poverty level or bring it down. So I don't think we'll ever eradicate it, but at least we'll be able to maybe make a dent in it. Everybody have a blessed day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Ciao.